What's up and welcome to Champions of Lore, a show about all the kick-ass stories behind some of Idle Champion's coolest campaigns and characters. Every Monday at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time here on twitch.tv/CNE Games, or later on your favorite podcast service, B. Dave Walters and Erin M. Evans talk about all the Idle Champions lore that's fun to know about. If you're here with us live in the chat, you can leave a question that I, Treavor Bettis, will ask them later in the show. You also get to enjoy B. Dave dancing, so if you're an audio listener, that's a reason to come back next week. But until then, Erin, B. Dave, take it away.
Hi, I'm Erin M. Evans. I am the author of the Brimstone Angels Saga, a 6-book series set in the Forgotten Realms featuring 3 of your favorite Idle Champions, Frida, Havilar, and Mahen. I also play Cecilia on Dungeon Scrawlers.
I really love your favorite Idle Champions.
I'm just going with it.
Mm-hmm.
B. Dave Walters, I say words about things. I am the dancer of the forbidden dance. And you can find me wherever fine streaming content can be located. Most notably Thursdays at 4 Pacific for Dungeons & Dragons: A Darkened Wish on D&D, YouTube, and Twitch.
Yeah. I also think the dancer of Forbidden Dancer should be some form of like Netherese, like higher up or something. It's very appropriate.
Now we understand why the Empire collapsed. Yep, because they danced the forbidden dance one too many times. Yep.
But yeah, so we are talking about the Netherese, the Netheril. I don't know which one I say. Because this isn't one that I don't know a lot about these. But Erin, you had to do some research into these for one of the books.
Yes. So my second book in the Brimstone Angels saga is called Brimstone Angels Lesser Evils, and it involves finding a Netherese archaeological site, which is the lost library of an arcanist called Tarkamis. It's a trap. But,
sorry, I couldn't not do it.
No, you were literally obligated to do it.
Yeah, I would have been disappointed. I would have felt like you weren't paying attention. So Netheril is an empire from the ancient history of Faerun. It is a magocracy, so it's ruled by wizards. They start out as just humans doing humany things. The elves teach them magic. That's okay and
that was
cool.
Their first mistake.
Right. Well, then they discover something called the Nether Scrolls, which are these golden tablets of like super magic. And this teaches them to make these things called Mythilars, which are basically like permanently activated magic items. That lets them do a lot of really cool, crazy things. And one of the biggest ones is they make floating cities. So now each arcanist rules a like floating city and creates spells. Netheril has lots of cool like magic tech, like lights for their rooms and things because they have the powers of these Nether Scrolls.
Mm-hmm.
That also stratifies. You have high Netheril, which is the floating cities, and then you have low Netheril, which is all the people who are left on the ground being ruled by the wizards in the floating cities.
Can I just insert? I love the way they're like, it's a magocracy. The wizards rule it, as if there's a place the wizards don't rule. You know?
It's true. It's true.
It's like, hey, I got wish and time stop. Guess what? I'm in charge.
No, this guy's in charge. Time stop kills. What guy?
I know you're like power. You're like power word kill. It'd be real rough if that dude were to die.
And this is actually like a social issue in High Netheril. It's like, okay, what do you do if you have beef with your neighbor and you know Meteor Swarm, but he knows something equivalent, or he's just invented something equivalent? Like there are lots of skirmishes here, which is relevant details for Lesser Evils. Go check it out. But the problem is, so they do a lot of their magic with these Mythilars. But the sort of catastrophe for Netheril comes about when a particular wizard, Karsus, decides that what would be better is if he could just make himself god of magic.
Oh, well, you know.
Yeah.
I see that line of thought.
Mistra's kind of asleep at the wheel. Let's be honest.
It doesn't go great. And it sort of heralds the collapse of Netheril. Like you start having like the cities start falling. There's other issues with these entities called the Faerun attacking. But what ends up happening is there's one city that really escapes, Tulthantar. They escape into the Shadowfell. They stay there for thousands of years. They come out in 1370 something.
But
and
then they see their shadow and they go back.
Well, that's the thing. They're fundamentally changed. They're all shadow people now.
Oh, well, they did. Okay.
Yeah, they are the Shadow Bar.
So I guess
Or shades.
More accurately, they don't see their shadow, which is why they're like, yeah.
It's all shadow. It's shadow all the way down.
Again, I object to this whole, ooh, you had the hubris to become a god, your empire's destroyed, whereas Lathander just derped his way to godhood. nobody did anything.
Like up till this point, like Netheril is now Anarok. It's a big desert. But the city of Shade, or Tulthantar, comes out. And it is ruled by what is his name? I should know this. Oh, Telemont Tanthul is the name of the guy in charge, the Most High. And his
I would not have remembered that either.
How could you forget? It just rolls off the tongue. Yeah.
He was kind of important to the Sundering series.
Okay.
A little bit of a linchpin. Comes back. They are now like a big bad empire, albeit much diminished from their previous reach. And they worship Shar, just so you know, they're the baddies. So when the sundering happens, this is sort of a piece of Shar's grab for power. Netheril starts trying to grab more and try to like enrich their goddess, and it doesn't go well for them again. They have built another floating city, Sakors. It falls. At the end of this, I believe at the end of the sundering, Shade has collapsed. But that is a question I should have double checked, because now I'm like, wait, I don't quite remember.
I can verify that there's always more shade.
If it needs to be thrown through the air at lightning speeds,
yeah,
it'll happen.
We serve it every day.
It did. It fell on Mythdraenor. That's right.
There we go.
Yep. So they tried to absorb a lot of territories. You had effects of them in Sembia. They sort of took over Sembia. They had incursions into the High Forest. They were grabbing up Chosen. So they you have the ancient empire of Netheril, and the after effects of that are a great source of like weird artifacts and strange ruins. And I believe this is where this connects, because you have Netherese ruins in several adventures, but I think Icewind Dale in particular.
Yes, there's some things going on in there. Could be relevant to a certain game.
Which one?
So
we're all just a bunch of casuals.
Yeah, that's all we are. Yeah. They've seen me play on Twitch. So I kind of wanted to go back real quick though to like walk it back to the floating cities. So where exactly were the Netherese? Like, were they all over Toril, or were they in a specific place, like in Faerun or something?
So, I wish I'd grabbed my old Empires book from inside. The reach of Netheril, I believe it was pretty far, but anytime it hit like an elven king, one of the elven kingdoms or one of the big human kingdoms, it did kind of stop.
Okay.
So
they weren't able to just like widely conquer and stuff.
But it wasn't just like tight into like the desert of Anarok, where you find a lot of these things. Like here is Ithrin is the enclave that collapsed over Icewind Dale. There's Undrentide is over the eastern forest. You've got this one is over Vasa, which is much further east. So I'm trying to see, because you'd think somewhere I would have access to a map where I could go, oh, here's
maps are oddly hard to find about these things.
That's fair. And honestly, a lot of the time I'm like, maps, I'm just confused.
Yeah. So these floating cities, this is just where the mages hung out. Like this was there were no like normies up there.
So this is my mild detour that is going to be relevant.
Oh, yeah.
You remember that song, Gundam Style?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Gundam Style. Remember that?
Mhm.
So I had a Korean friend of mine who was telling me at the time, because she could speak and understand everything I was saying, that
Mhm.
basically Gungam is a area in Seoul that
Yep.
is Beverly Hills, essentially. Like, this is Beverly Hills style. So in my mind, the floating cities were all the upper crust of Netheril. And I just see these wizards all
Damn.
yeah,
Just up there.
that's it.
They're like,
But-
you're not
but-
on our floating city doing the freaking
But-
dance.
But all the wind and stuff blowing around, it makes a lot more sense when you're like, it's just a bougie wizard. Think about it.
Sai is just a bougie wizard.
Shy is just a bougie wizard. Wouldn't that make
goodness.
everything make a lot more sense?
really
if you
would.
think about it.
Yeah. Because he is a mother, father, gentleman. So, and you said that when things started to go bad, these cities started to fall, and I'm assuming you mean literally.
Yeah, I mean, they're up in the sky, so
Yeah, they didn't
when
have
their
like.
Mythilars get busted, because I mean, part of this too is that so Karsus oversteps, Mistra looks around and goes, "Hold up,"
Mhm.
and at that point, she sort of like makes this decree about how magic gets used, because like before there was like no limit.
Mhm.
If you had enough skill and intelligence, you could just tap the weave and use its energy.
Mhm.
But so this kind of like it's a little bit of a this is why things only go to 9th level. And now magic works this way.
Mhm.
So the wizards are suddenly losing their ability to kind of keep things going. There's also, because they're just spraying so much magic, it's sinking into the ground. It's drawing in these Faerun, these creatures that like eat magic,
Mhm.
which is causing the domains down there that they're supposed to be in charge of. They don't like that.
Mhm.
So it is just like a system-wide collapse.
Okay. I don't know why my brain is doing this, but like I got these floating cities and they're crashing down, they're all evil and everything. I don't know why I just keep picturing the spaceships from Independence Day.
It's not that. Although they weren't evil at the time when the cities came down, they were kind of like spoiled, but they weren't bad.
I guess,
right?
well, I
They were
guess
just
that is,
people.
I guess that is a good question. Like, are these the bad guys or?
I mean, yeah, kind of. I mean, they were not kind to the people they rolled. I also specify, just because I think I did not say this clearly. Like, Karsus does this thing. Mistra basically turns off the Mythilars.
Oh,
Yeah. So like,
There
she's
you
like,
go.
that's too much. You can't just walk around with magic globes that you didn't really work for.
DM magicked them.
Yeah.
It was a lawful evil and neutral evil empire. So yeah, never mind.
Yeah.
They were bad. And also the ships fell in a matter of hours. Like, the people on the ground had a slow decline, but the people, it made sense that if you're like, I'm on a flying city, I'm not. Yeah.
It really
I'm
like
Should have memorized Featherfall, punk.
it's one of those things where it's like, this is just awful, right? These wizards are deeply selfish.
Uh-huh.
They do not think of the people on the ground as really being people.
Yeah.
They're bad rulers. They frequently like meteor swarm each other over petty slights. Like, sure, they deserve to be punished, or taken down a couple notches. But when the cities drop, they land on something.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't seem like it's a great deal.
It's probably not great. Yeah.
But
So the if Mistra was just like, nope, no more of that. Does that mean that like Netherese artifacts are kind of useless, or is there a way, or are those things still kicking about?
so that's a good question, because I think it's one of those things where like, it's kind of cool. So do we make reasons for it to work?
Mm-hmm.
And then we've changed magic style for like, we've kind of changed some of the aspects of magic from edition to edition, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I am going to double check, because I actually don't remember what we're at here.
I mean, I definitely, I've seen relics come back as stuff you find, but again, it's never like on the level of what it was before.
Mhm.
You know, I mean, Eberron gets aspects of that too, although this is different. That you know, you're like, here's like a little piece of the old thing, but now it's gonna like, you know, it's my reading light.
So okay, so this explicitly says almost all the Mythilars were destroyed or rendered powerless at that point.
Okay.
The two that dodge are the City of Shade. Tulthantar escapes to the Plane of Shadow, and which is later the Shadowfell.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, I'm not sure that those are actually the same thing. But
yeah, the Plane of Shadow and the Shadowfell are not expressly the same thing.
Okay,
just
that's fine. I'm not gonna complain.
Yeah, just you know, not to confuse anyone.
Shadow dimensions. Okay. It's just two light sources basically create two different. Yeah. And then there is also one called Selunara or Opus, which Selune pulls into the gates of the moon, and it's apparently still there. But generally, yeah, they're all busted.
Okay. Well, because I feel like we mentioned the Netherese when we were talking about the Chardalyn.
That's another thing. They had Chardalyn.
Yeah.
We did. Also, just as an aside, I double checked to make sure that the Plane of Shadow and the Shadowfell are different. I thought they were, but I'm like, let me double check. And they are, because different planes and things were a much bigger deal in previous editions, especially like 3rd edition. And also, never feel bad to check your lore, kids. That being said, though, even though the entry is very much like, no, this is a completely different place. Picture at the top, totally the Shadowfell.
Yeah. Also,
I enjoy very much the idea that Shar has her like realm of shadow and the Raven Queen has the Shadowfell, and they're both like, mine is the real one.
Do you mean they're throwing shade at each other?
They're throwing it. Yeah, right there it is. There it is. That's it.
It's
right.
cute you have that plane over there.
It's cute.
Good job, girl.
That plane over there.
I'm
Keep striving.
In Q Orcus. I mean, you know, we already know which one is the real one because we know where the real love is. Go ask the Lady of Pain which one's the real one. She's gonna say the Shadowfell too. It's fine.
I don't know. Shar's got a lot of power.
Yeah.
At least in Toril.
Yeah.
The
Chardalyn, which you know makes Chardalyn dragon, the chunky boy himself.
Le chunk de boy.
Le chunk de boy. What since it's been a few episodes, actually has been quite a few episodes. What give us the rundown real quick again, like what was up with Chardalyn?
So,
because it's glass, right?
Check something.
Yeah,
this is one of those things again where we have like something has sort of changed because originally Chardalyn is this very frangible or like very breakable that can store magic, and then when you break it the spell comes out, and now it's something we can shape, right? So you have like Chardalyn crowns and Chardalyn armor, and once again I say spell plague changed things on a molecular level. But the Netherese are the ones who originally discovered Chardalyn, I had to check. There's all these like these peoples that existed before that. So you have like the Saruk Empire, the Batrachi. I don't ever remember what they did. I always have to look that up.
I've operated for the longest time under the assumption that the Netherese were like the ancient civilization that there's just relics of, and they were like the first or something. And it's like, oh no, there was like way more before. I'm like, I don't.
They didn't even show up till after the elves were done with their crown wars.
I was like, man, I don't know what's going on.
You know, they're referred to as the Forgotten Realms for a reason. So, you know, we're like, some stuff used to be over here. Doesn't matter. It's different stuff now. Roll initiative.
It means you have so many options for like, we stumble on these ancient ruins.
Yeah.
Like, are they snake people ruins or elf people ruins? Or I actually don't ever remember what the Batrachi are. I know they're not bat people, but that is what my brain fills in every time.
I feel like they should be. Yeah.
They're not that.
I think it's more like Lovecraftian. But so the Netherese are the first ones to discover it. They mined the heck out of all of the loads they could find. So there are locations in the realms which are positioned on like tapped out Chardalyn mines. Because if there was anything they could get that would make magic easier, they were on it.
Well, thus trying to become the god of magic themselves,
Right? They're like, I think we've earned this.
Man, the
I think I can I can
entitlement
do
of
this
magic.
job.
The entitlement. That's the next Harry Potter book, right? Right after the Harry Potter and the audacity of this bitch. Yeah, right. Although that is interesting to me that you have an evil magic empire that didn't go down the Lich route. Although I guess when they went to the Plane of Shadow, they super went down the Lich route, kind of. But
Well, yeah, that was something I wanted to ask, because did they do Lich stuff? Like, because that is usually like the megalomania of a wizard going down that route.
I actually don't know. I don't remember ever reading about a Lich wizard, but also magic at that point was so like unbridled that it almost seems like you wouldn't need to do that.
Yeah.
Because you have other ways of extending your life, but maybe.
Yeah. Now, did they have anything to do with? I don't know why I have this weird connection. Do they have anything to do with the Crystal Shard?
Maybe.
I don't know, that one's kind of like the fuzzy area for me. Like, I feel like I remember hearing something about Netherese in them, but I could also be 100% wrong.
Thing. Like, they are this empire is like a little bit everywhere. Like it is like the first big, powerful human empire with like lots of very hooky bits, right? There's flying cities. There's these magic eating monsters. There's a guy who makes a spell to steal the power of a god and decides to pick Mistral. Like, they're very interesting. And there's been a lot of like, I'm going to pull this bit down. I'm going to pull this bit down. So it's cool in that way that there's lots of space. Like I mentioned Lesser Evils before. There's a box set from 2nd edition called Netheril, Empire of Magic.
Okay.
And in that, there's a lot of the arcanists are named. You had that one. There's a lot of named arcanists. There's a lot of named cities. And I needed one that would match a particular location, because what I wanted is this Cave of Zamox that people have been trying to summon something into is actually a bastardization of the name Tarkamis, because it's switching alphabets. It's got the phonemes in the wrong order, stuff like that. And so when I looked, I was like, I need a different wizard. So I made one up, because there were enough of these floaty cities that if you wanted to make something up, you could, right? There is space for more things. There's also a lot of stuff you could yank from. And they are good for that, because they didn't just sit there.
Yeah.
They went places and they messed stuff up. So you can definitely inject like lots of little Netherese bits where you want.
But also, I was looking, there were overtly survivor states, like Mistra saved some of them, Anaria, Etheram, and Hlondath, where it just sort of, exactly, what would you do for a Hlondath?
Wasn't Hlondath one of the domains, one of the low Netheril cities? Were those all low Netheril, or were they the floating ones?
This was, it looks like both.
Okay.
It said following the collapse of Netheril, 3 of the Netherese enclaves were saved by the newly ascended goddess of magic Mistra. They were brought down to Toril, and the lives of their noble citizens were spared. The survivors created realms.
There we go.
Wait, and she was just newly ascended? Man, they their whole empire collapsed to a... Oh yeah, she left and came back. Right, no, please go ahead and explain.
So first there's Mistral, the goddess. And when Karsus does this thing, I'm pretty sure she dies. But she immediately comes back as Mistra.
Oh, thank you.
That's cheating.
You said Mistral earlier. I'm like, have I been mispronouncing that name this whole time? I've said it on so many shows.
I mean, if you would think about it, if any god would have a contingency, it'd be the god of magic, though. Where you're like, ha! Right? She's like, I don't think so. Also, now your stuff doesn't work.
She's done this a couple times too. I think that during the Avatar crisis, I don't know if that counts. I don't know if it counts as dying, but she's then mortal named Midnight who ascends and becomes Mistra number 2. Then Reckoning. She dies in the spell plague and she comes back again. So
Mistra 3 this time.
Magic is renewal. Renewal is magic.
Sorry.
Mistra's getting too old for this weed.
Too Mistra, too magical.
Goodness. Too Mistra, too magical. Lord. Oh,
Sorry.
Okay, so Christian Abon, the crystal shard, is not Netherese.
Okay.
It is from Zakara.
Okay. Then yep, I don't know where the heck I got that from.
It's a weird, extra powerful magic item.
Yeah.
That's a good first guess.
It's true. It's true.
It is what the plot requires. What the plot necessitates is what it is.
Exactly. Okay, so let's see here. So we got Empire, floating cities, magic. Mistra's like, nope, crash, boom. Which I feel like we could talk about this maybe a little bit. There's a lot of interesting story possibilities there for a table. What? Oh, Dave.
You know, I'm still thinking about the low Netherese, the people literally on the ground as they're flying overhead. Also, shout out to Battle Angel Alita.
Oh, yeah.
But you think about it, we're like, oh, that's so terrible. But I'm like, that's kind of everywhere in Faerun's like that, though. There's still the haves and the have-nots. It's just you might happen to still be on the ground. Yeah.
You don't usually get physically crushed by the have-nots hubris in a very literal way. Just in a more metaphorical.
I've done a lot of murder hoboing in my time. No, they get crushed literally by the hubris of the upper crust. That is, yeah.
Okay, but do you drop a lot of cities on their houses? That's my point.
I genuinely feel like my party
it's a thin point, but it's a point.
My party is like maybe like 12 sessions away from dropping a city on someone at some point. I swear.
I mean, I'm adding it to my bucket list. Yeah. Although, I'm wondering now to what because again it's a slippery slope to get into like metaphor and things, but the fact that they crashed the city, their return shadow city into Mythilars, and Mythilars was like the city of like love and knowledge and friendship, and they're like, we're evil shadow people, boom, was to what extent that was simply narrative and to what extent it was like the shadow blotting out.
That is so Ed, it happens in Ed Greenwood's book The Herald, and unfortunately we did not ask him this question before.
The weird thing, he probably would remember if I'm like, hey, Ed, remember that thing you did 40 years ago? He's like, I do.
So that one, the crashing into Mythilars, is more recent, but it is still true that is exactly how Ed rolls.
How Ed
yeah, that is funny. Yeah, because I think if 1476 that happened with
that's like the end of the sundering.
Yeah, but again, the timeline always gets weird, but it's only like 1485-ish now. Yeah. This is like recent. Like, like people imagine having no idea what was going on. You're just like bopping through the woods and like
Hey, is it getting dark early?
The Death Star has cleared the planet. The Death Star has cleared the planet. Yeah. And then you just have to go back to your sad life being a fisherman or something and still never have any idea what you went to.
The Dales are just sitting there like, could you guys be done, please? I do think the elves of Mythilars were integral in the pull it down, crash it process. So there was some sacrifice, I think. We actually, for Dungeons and Scrawlers, had a one-off episode of archaeology where we went to Mythilars and they were excavating parts of it, and they're like, "That's a debris field from Tilthantar. Like, we're not allowed to touch it until the surveyors come through." It was delightful.
Oh, see, now I want to do one that is like somebody excavating the debris field of one of these cities, but it's being treated like Area 51. They're like, nope, it was a weather balloon. It was not a city.
Just like Neverwinter rolls in and just scoops up everything. Yeah. Like, there's nothing. Don't worry about it.
Nope, nothing to see here.
That's all good.
Yeah. We've learned absolutely nothing from our city's history, and we're just here to collect some stuff and be gone.
But going back to the ones that went into the shadow plane, not the shadow fell. How did they do that again? They cast like a ritual or something and went there, or they make a deal or anything?
So that was so Telemont Tanthul was one of these arcanists back in the day.
Right, the rolling off the tongue guy. Yeah.
Figured out how to do that before Karsus manages to create Karsus's avatar. his body swap spell to make him a god. I think it's Telemont that what.
Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. I'm seeing both. I'm seeing that they did go to the Shadowfell. The Shadowfell and the Shadow Plane are separate. That is true. But that they did go to the Shadowfell.
They showed up and they didn't talk to the landlady. They just wanted somewhere.
True. You know,
they don't know who's in charge. They picked Char.
I think people greatly underestimate how messed up the Shadowfell is, by the way, that you have these fleeing evil wizard refugees. All of Ravenloft is in the Shadowfell.
Yep.
Like, I feel like the Raven Queen's got a lot of explaining to do.
I do love
but she's like, or do I?
I do love the idea though of the city getting into the Shadowfell. They're like, yay, praise Char! And the Raven Queen's like, what the hell did you say?
I actually genuinely like the revelation that deities are like different faces of the same entity.
Yeah.
So I do sort of like the idea of Char and the Raven Queen actually being the same person, but never, ever, ever acknowledging it.
And also like still having a beef with
them.
Yeah.
Like she's keeping up this. It's like, what is that? Miley Cyrus show?
Hannah Montana.
She's Hannah Montana. Yeah. That's it.
She's
it's like Hannah Montana, but with more evil dark magic.
Oh, that's fantastic.
You needed a title for this.
Yeah, you know, I did, and there it is. The evil Hannah Montana. There we go.
So anyway, there's actually this guy called I think the Terra Seer is the guy who shows up with like a prophecy. Yeah, Arthendal the Terra Seer appears and says like, Karsus, Mistral's kind of aware of what you're doing and you should stop. So there's a little bit of warning, and I don't know how much that falls into Telemont's decision to bop out of this plane, but he was already working with like planar magic.
I feel like it was a decision made based on emergency though, because if you got your choice of planes, the Shadowfell is not the top of the list. You know, where he's like, hey, you know that place we're all gonna go when we die? Yeah. So.
Yeah. Okay. So, oh my goodness, is this the same? Oh God, everything is very layered.
Dear
that's
friends,
still Telemont. He went by Lord Shadow at the time.
Oh
my!
He 100%. He didn't just shop at Hot Topic. He had a membership.
He got a job for the employee discount. I would just like to say, friends, here before your very eyes, I just came up with a new Ravenloft Dread domain from a wrecked Netherese flying city.
That could be cool.
That's going to come. Well, they were all terrible and terrified.
Yeah.
So that's definitely the
requirements
recipe.
Met.
Right. Yeah. Yep. That's the thing's going to happen now.
So basically, he's already messing around with shadow magic and planar magic, and he shifts the whole city there a couple days before Karsus, messes everything up, destroys the weave temporarily, which is what kills Mistral. And then he can't get it to go back to the prime material plane. They managed to do it. They look around, they're like, oh no. And decide to go back to the plane of shadow and like prepare for like rebuilding this empire without having to worry about the Faerûn or everybody who's mad at Netheril getting in their way. So they go there, they worship Char, they turn into the Shadowvar, the Shades. They come back like, here's our triumphant return, and everything is very different.
How long between that was that? A couple.
In negative 1471 Dale Reckoning, is when it was created. In negative 339 Dale Reckoning is when Karsus pulled his thing, and they came back in 1372.
Okay.
So
quite a bit of time.
1700 years.
Yeah, that'll do it.
Yeah.
So then, but now that raises several additional questions. Like, did these people just live that long in the Shadowfell? Is this like generations of them seeking revenge? Like, whatever.
That is a good question, because I do know that like Telemont lives that long. His sons live that long, and then once they come back, they live the additional 113 years until Elminster drops their city, with the help of elves. So they do seem to have like no natural lifespan.
Well, yeah, because that is interesting, because in Ravenloft, people still age. Well, I mean, normal people, bunny ears, normal people still age.
That's why this is the plane of shadow, not the
yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess when you're outside, like when you're just in the Shadowfell, no rules apply. Whatever.
It's a wizard did it.
Yeah, a wizard
Literally!
did it, and they did. It's true. The little line down there. It's correct.
I am trying to find the name of a thing that I find delightful. So shades in Returned Netheril have these mounts that are like flying, like lamprey ray things.
Okay.
And I can't remember what they're called.
That makes no sense, and I love it.
Right? It is fully a wizard did it. It is like, we need something that really says we're from the city of Shade and we're here to kick ass. And this is what they picked.
Just flying collapsible fans. Just pop. Fly off on those. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I love them. I think they're fascinating and weird and gross. I also have a fight scene that I love very much, where Havilar, after not being able to fight things, like beats the heck out of one.
Heck yeah.
And then has a tender moment with her boyfriend.
Oh,
because that's how Havilar rolls.
That's why I love her.
But I can't remember what they're called.
Get you a tiefling that can do both.
So one of the things I wanted to ask here, just before we pass it over to chat, see what they've been up to, because remember, you can, if you have any questions about the Netherese or stuff like that, you can leave them in chat and we will ask them and answer them, hopefully, or we'll just go on a tangent about it. Anywho, what are some cool ways that, like B-Dave was saying, where it's like, oh, I got a cool idea for a dread domain. What do y'all think of some cool ideas to insert the Netherese into your home game?
I fully am behind like ruins as like you could probably handwave out a Mythilar, but you can also have interesting magic items, lesser evils. It's a library that's sentient, and there's a monster in it too, and I love it. So you can make like whatever weird magical thing. Netherese gives you a little bit of wiggle room to say a wizard did it, and stick that in there and provide a cool challenge. So you don't have to be as bound by the existing rules and what's already come. You probably shouldn't feel that way anyway, but specifically for this, and you can do cool things with like if your players are ones who like puzzles and stuff, like there's linguistic weirdness with Netherese. There's you can create multi-layered ruins, because when you drop a city like that, it's gonna go down. You can also just have things they built on the surface, because that might be done. So yeah. Oh,
it'd be kind of cool to like have one that's like completely straight down sideways, and so you have to navigate the city from a completely horizontal angle. That'd be cool.
Yeah, and canonically, there were survivors. So you very easily, if you want to have them like, you're exploring a cave system or some remote mountains, and like, here's like a whole community where they're still kicking it like the old days,
Because they were just normal looking humans,
They were just humans, yeah.
Okay.
See, this is another thing though, like, so Return Netheril is defeated, but they had people everywhere.
Yeah.
So you could have a group of Shadowvar who are like, we're not done yet. We're trying to regain power, or we're trying to distance ourselves from the damsels because we see which way the wind is blowing. You could find them in the Shadowfell trying to get the Raven Queen's attention.
Notice me.
They
Sure, bring a boombox.
Get in line.
now they're the villain. They are still like they're the remnants of the big bads. And so what do they do without leadership, without direction? Like, are they going to try to get back what they had, or are they going to try to make something else work? They're going to give up on evil and start a co-op.
And quite frankly, things can work because reasons.
Yeah.
On Heroes of the Plains, we're flying around on Storm Herald, which is a repaired Netherese flying city. So, and we can do it because we can do it.
Heck
So, yeah.
Because it's cool.
Exactly.
By the way, I googled
Only drop
Shadow.
it on someone who deserves it, though.
It's true.
I mean, drop your weapon.
It's free action.
Oh, I love it.
It is.
It is. I actually googled Shadowvar and looked at the images, and it is so edgelordy, but so kind of really cool. Like they look really cool.
Now I have to.
Like it's just, it looks like, you know, the hot topic fantasy dude with a cool freaking sword that's all edgelordy and stuff, but it's kind of cool. There's smoke coming off of it. I like it.
So that guy is. So the Shadowvar are the people from Shade.
Mhm.
The Shades are Shadowvar who are important enough and special enough to have been imbued with the power of shadow.
Is that a special type of shade, or is that all shades?
Shade.
That is, I'm gonna say, I think that's all shades, but then as I say that, I feel like surely somewhere in a monster manual there is a variant of undead, like a ghost thing called a shade.
There is.
Oh, okay.
So
that's why I was asking.
This is.
Okay.
The shades of Tulfantar, the Shadowvar shades, are people who have been rewarded for their loyalty to the Most High and Char and been imbued with this. Which basically, it looks like you swap out part of your soul for essence of shadow, which is, very edgelordy. And so they live a lot longer, which is why the Tanthals have that. And they get extra abilities and they get to look cool.
I like that.
You know, there used to be shades, now they're just shadows, and that is a thing. Yeah, they have a strength drain. Yeah, I was like shades have a life drain, and they're like they're shadows and they have a strength drain. I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah.
This is a slight tangent. There's a series called I've blanked on it. Anyway, it's like Unclean and Undead. It's by Richard Lee Byers, and it's about Fae. And one of the things I know he had trouble with is like anytime you're talking about some creature, like you're talking about a ghost, for example, and you want to not use the word ghost over and over, and you reach for one of the synonyms in English for ghost, it's a different monster in this world, so you can't do it. It was apparently a bit of a task.
I could totally that would
like the phantom, not a phantom.
Not a phantom.
The shadow, no. The shade, no.
Well, also not a shade.
The gas, not a set. That's not
Nope. Nope.
The spirit, nope. Different thing.
No. Revenant. Also no.
Undead being. Nope, still wrong.
Right.
All right, let's take a look at what chat has been up to. And actually, I'm going to read one that ties into that last question. This is from Catch23. It says, I have a plan for one of my players to discover notes about their reborn character in Netherese ruins, really build up the idea that they've discovered the reason for the creation, and then find the notes revealing that they and other flesh golems were found in Chult. That's pretty cool.
That is exciting.
Yeah.
I'm for it.
Yeah. All right, let's go back up to the top at the beginning of the show. Cassie's 335 says, Treavor and Erin have have you made sure that you're talking to the real B-Dave? No, we never do. We just assume.
Could be anybody, really.
How do you think he's on so many streams in one day? He's like Michael Keaton in Multiplicity.
This world is not good enough for multiple B-Daves.
Oh, thank you. And also, like Multiplicity, my performance just continued to decrease with each iteration. That is all true. Yep.
Let's see. We talked about that one. Dungeons and Dad Jokes says Elminster cast throw shade at 9th level.
He casted a 10th level in this instance. Yeah,
Oh
literally
my God.
through shade. Yeah.
Yep. Yep. Cassius335 comes back, says, did the Netherese ever invent a kit I need you function for flying cities, whether or not they were invented AI first?
Oh my God.
I want a
I
whole
feel like-
city that's voiced by the principal from freaking Boy Meets World.
I really love the idea that you go into these Netherese ruins and then the ruins wake up and start talking to you. Because yes, someone did that.
But they all sound like
that
Mr.
is-
Feeney.
Exactly. It's weird to me that he's Mr. Feeney for this generation. He was Kit. Yeah. So yeah.
Especially if the city's like, no one has cleared the sewage in 300 years.
Just
And
give
you're
me
like, who was here 300 years
And
ago?
real,
Sorry.
and now it sounds like no one's cleaned the sewage in 300 years, Mr. Matthews. Let's see. Catch 23 says there were also non-wizard Netherese nobles. I thought. Paris? Oh, I think it's Paris. Oh my God, Ulf Binder is a warrior and scholar, but not a wizard, right?
I don't recall, but I do know that is a character from I believe the Legend of Dritz books.
Okay.
I'm not positive actually. But yeah, it is definitely the case that wizards are preferential, and in ancient Netheril in particular.
Mm-hmm.
But I am sure people added more variety.
Yeah, because I mean, it would only make sense because the city's got all the mages and whatnot, but like down in the normal cities, they probably still had adventurers and stuff.
Also, somebody has to be down there telling people what to do, and if you're a wizard who's working on making a spell to turn you into the god of magic, you don't have time.
But I mean, could you imagine? It's just full Caramon and Raceland though. Like you're this important wizard, and you have kids, and one of them is just a himbo. You're like, it's mage hand. You're like, it's literally a cantrip. Just move that with your mind. And he's like, I'm really fast. I can action search.
I can action
I thought about it.
Bro, you're like, could you at least be an Eldritch Knight?
Can you at least be an Eldritch Knight?
No.
I love that. I love that. So I have no son.
Yeah. Dead to me.
Yeah. That might actually turn out pretty literal for Netherese. Garwar says,
too soon.
Yeah, too soon. Don't create a flying city that can't featherfall itself in an emergency. Okay.
They're like, there'll never be any emergencies. That's our
Hubris.
level of hubris. Yep.
Yeah. That is honestly one of my answers for a lot of villains messing up. Is I'm just like, look, you think that they're clear-minded this whole time, but they have the hubris. That's why they're doing this.
Yep.
Let's see. Alias Buck. So the
Also, so can I just point out, if your city falls and it feather falls and it lands on the domain that you were supposed to be taking care of, and you don't have any magic anymore because the weave just blipped, and Mistra, when she comes back, is pissed. I feel like all the angry people that you just landed a city in the middle of are going to have something to say. So it may not have worked out great.
And to their credit, it might have had Featherfall there, and Mistra deactivated the weave. So they're falling.
That's true.
They're
I didn't think of that part.
They're like, hit the chute. The chute's not working. Hit the reserve chute. Cut those two. Oh, okay. Boom.
But you see,
And of course, none of them thought to make a giant actual chute.
yeah, they did. Just hundreds of them.
It's for normies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Can you guys still hear me?
I can hear you, but you're frozen.
Video froze.
Yeah.
All right, I'm here, but all right. Well, I don't want to refresh it because I'll wonk everything out.
Yeah.
But okay.
This is the B-Dave pose. Viewers, just enjoy it.
This is me spinning on the wheels of steel there. I'm on the ones and twos.
Some Garwars or Mr. Cut B-Dave's video feed for that.
Sure, I've been struck low by hubris. Yes.
But here's the thing. Here's what popped into my head. The Featherfall did work, and it's slowly going down towards the city, and there's one, like, Netherese down there that's like the security guard in Austin Powers with the steamroller. No! And it's just slowly coming down at him.
Yep.
So yeah, Alex Buck says, so the Netherese are the magic version of Elder Scrolls Dwemer, which...
Basically.
Sort
Although
of?
the Netherese were first.
That's fair.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if the Nether Scrolls, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Nether Scrolls, yeah. I do feel like we probably know more about the Netherese than the Dwemer.
Yeah, 1000%.
Yeah. But yeah, essentially.
Yep. More or less.
I want to also point out something I just remembered.
Mm-hmm.
That box set had so it was set in ancient Netheril, and it had rules to let your characters time travel, so you could go be in ancient Netheril with your characters.
Yeah, but you're like, nobody tell them. Yeah. I remember that the chronomancy rule was a part of that, wasn't it? Yep.
Yeah.
Trying to, I know these are references to stuff we were talking about, but I don't remember what it was. Garwar says, weren't those the 3 ships the Netherese sailed to Faerun in? I don't know what that's in reference to.
I'm sure it was hilarious.
Yeah, I trust you. Taskmansum says that there's been like 4 or 5 Mistras now, and I think that's about right.
4 or 5, or they're all the same person, slightly different look.
I mean, it is kind of like Gandalf. Like I fell down a pit. Now I came back with better clothes.
Exactly. Had to go 1v1 the Balrog. It bees like that sometimes.
Let's see. How do you say this? Shay Drake song? I'm gonna say that one. So what happens if the original Mistra comes back again, and now there are 2 Mistra in the same place at the same time? I mean,
2 Mistra, 2 Furious. Yeah.
I think this sort of gets into like a philosophical question of like is this the same Mistra? Are these different Mistras? Does the god's presentation of itself, is that a fundamental truth?
Yeah.
If she is the embodiment of magic all over this plane, if another Mistra shows up, I'm assuming they're both Mistra, and this is a weird plan that better have a really kick-ass.
It's like a Doctor Who episode. You know, he's met himself plenty of times.
She's not it's not a person, so I feel like I want to ascribe more to her than like what does her face look like, you know. But that's my feelings about it in general. So I am like, okay, a story where like, oh no, now there's 2 Mistras, what does that mean? It's kind of entertaining.
Yep.
They're both get into a fist fight. Somebody pulls up a gun. They're like, no, it's that one. Shoot that one.
Yeah. Shoot the one that has the goatee.
Mistra with the goats.
Oh, I love it.
It's one of them looks like Mistra. The other one looks like oh god, Riker in a wig. Shay Drake song says, so which one is Hannah Montana and which one is Miley? Oh god, the Raven Queen. I mean, I feel like that one's got to be the more showy off one.
I don't know.
Unquestionably.
I don't know. But I have more experience with Forgotten Realms than with Ravenloft and things where Raven Queen is more ascendant. So I'm like, I'm sure is a mess, and she's everywhere.
Well, Raven Queen, she doesn't really get involved in Ravenloft. It's just in the Shadowfell, and as such, she rules over it. I mean, she may or may not be Ezra. I will take no. I have no comment on such a thing. Yeah.
But
I mean, even if Ravenloft was your domain, would you go down there? You're kind of like, we don't go to the lower east side of the Shadowfell. Yeah. Nothing good's happening down there.
It's just running itself. It's fine.
Oval Lauren says, Shadowfell, no rules, just shadow. I think that is gonna do it for checking in with chat, and I think that's gonna do it for us talking about lore this week. I hope you all learned something. Be Dave, move if you didn't learn anything. Perfect. Okay.
Yeah. Perfect. Yeah. Exactly.
Erin, B-Dave, where can people find you and what awesome things are you working on?
You can find me on Twitter at Erin M. Evans. You can catch me with these guys on the writing podcast, Writing About Dragons and Shit.
Yes.
Which we update every Wednesday.
Yep. New episode went up today, and we're talking with who we've talked about him a lot this episode, Ed Greenwood.
Hey.
Yeah.
Talking about world building and specifically world building with governments.
Yeah. And he just wants to stab a lot of people.
There is a lot of stabbing logistics discussions.
Yes.
Elminster's been crossed over enough times that he needs to think first and ask questions later.
You can also watch me tonight, 6:30 on twitch.tv/Dungeon Scrawlers, where I play in a Forgotten Realms game with a bunch of other fantasy writers. And today is the beginning of our finale for our short season, where we will finally try to thwart the Night King's ritual to create everlasting darkness for vampire.
Yeah. Kick his ass.
B-Dave Walters, I say words about things. I'm far more likely to perform the ritual and have it work in my games. You can find me all over the interwebs, wherever fine streaming content can be located at B-Dave Walters. And like I said, Thursdays at 4 for Pacific on D&D Twitch and YouTube for the Black Dice Society with the world's hunkiest podcast editor.
Who could he be?
Trey B.
God dang it. If you want more context for that, you gotta listen to Writing About Dragons and Shit, which I am on with these two lovely people, as well as the Difficulty Class podcast every Friday. And you can also find me on Twitter at the Treavor. There's an A hiding in there. Thank you to Jay for moderating the chat as always, and thank you to Codename Entertainment for letting us have some fun and talk about some D&D. If you missed any part of this show, you can listen to it later as a podcast at 2 p.m. And if you have any suggestions for some lore that you want us to talk about, you can send that into championsoflore@codenameentertainment.com. Let's see, what do we got going on today for scheduling? We have Mars's Guiding Hand at 1 p.m., so be sure to stick around for that. And then at 3 p.m., the Sketching Hour. So come back, enjoy both those shows, have some fun, get some chess codes and stuff, and it's a good time. But that is going to do it for this week's episode. So until next week, Champions out.